The Fed raised rates yesterday, another 75 basis points or 0.75%, 0.75%. And interest rates on mortgages are very high. I want to talk about today the impact of that and where you should be as a first-time home buyer and things you need to be thinking about. So number one, are you a sucker for buying a house now? And I'm going to show you a quick video clip from a stock analyst and what he thinks about that. How to prepare for the worst. Because in the press conference yesterday, Chairman Powell, chair of the Federal Reserve, said, hope for the best and prepare for the worst. And what typically happens if we do go into recession, there's a high chance because the Federal Reserve is being so aggressive in raising rates, there's a high chance that we will enter a recession. Some economists are saying over 50%. After the Fed increased yesterday and after the press conference, because basically he said, I'm not going to slow down until until inflation is at that 2% level. He's going to keep on going for the most part. More economists are saying there's a higher chance of us being in a recession in 2023. So you need to pay attention to what they're saying. You want to prepare now for the chance of recession coming up. Technically, we're already in a recession, so that recession is going to get deeper in the months ahead. So let's first watch what his name is Jim Cramer. He does a show on CNBC called Mad Money. Let's watch what he says about being a sucker if you're buying a house right now.
Gigantic rate increase, just gigantic off the base. And yet the 2 year shows you he's going again and he's going again. And what will happen, David, is you'll look like a real sucker if you buy a house. That's what's about to occur. You're buying a house in 2008 at this point. And you're going to, as soon as it gets off the lot, you're buying it and it's going down in value. That is what's happening. That's the win for Powell. Remember, he wants your house to go down in price. He wants your stock portfolio to go down. He wants you to feel inflation and be worried about your job. These are the things that happen.
Okay. In my prior video, I did say, and I showed his video, he said there will be pain. That pain specifically is higher interest rates on debt. So if you already have credit card debt or other payments that you're paying that have variable interest rates, those payments are going up. He's also talking about the pain of job loss. He's talking about the pain of job loss and then the pain of everything like mortgages and homes costing a lot more. We're up about, for the average home, we're up about, say, $400,000 home, up about $700 more to buy that same house this month than it was in January. So what Jim Cramer is saying, the goal of the Fed is to get people out of the market in a lot of different areas, to pull back on some of the spending because we have savings from stimulus and from other things. He wants you to get rid of that through having to make payments. So and making things much more expensive. So what he's saying is if you are pushed into a recession, home prices would go down because the demand for housing is going to go down. Okay. So you want to be prepared if you're in the market right now, that if the aggressive Fed policy, them, increasing interest rates to get inflation back down, they may cause home values to go down. And so you're buying a house in a time of correction. So if you're in the market now, you're buying a house, you usually need to be aware of that. You're buying a house in a time of correction. And that correction could be small. It could go down, a little bit, or it could be larger. It could be a higher percentage because you're buying in a time of correction. And generally, it may take about 3 months for the interest rates, for people to feel the interest rate increases. Because right now, people are still buying, people are still in the housing market. They haven't 100%, they're pulling back, but they haven't 100% pulled back or, over 50% pulled back, right? So you want to make sure that you are, number one, aware of when you're buying in a time of correction. And you also want to be aware of what those consequences may be if you buy and there is a recession. Number one would be, and I'm going to tell you some of the things you can do to prepare. Number one could be you could lose your job. So you want to make sure you have a very, very stable employment. And I'm going to play another clip from Jerome Powell A reporter asked him, how does he feel about the pricing of homes? Now, she says shelter because, they look at shelter, not just people that own their home, but people that rent as well. And he talks about, that not coming down very quickly because supply is still low. So he believes he is trying to get the prices down, but it may take a little bit longer, especially for rent, because most people are in long-term leases. You're in 12-month leases. But he does say in here, he says, prepare, hope for the best, but prepare for the worst. So let's watch this. And it'll be about 30 seconds or so.
Hope for the best, plan for the worst. So I think on shelter inflation, you've just got to assume that it's going to remain pretty high for a while.
Okay. Let me play it one more time. So I'm going to play it one more time.
I think that shelter inflation is going to remain high for some time. We're looking for it to come down, but it's not exactly clear when that will happen. So it may take some time. So I think hope for the best, plan for the worst. So I think on shelter inflation, you've just got to assume that it's going to remain pretty high for a while.
Okay, thank you. I didn't realize I didn't start at the very beginning of that clip. But I want to make sure that you are preparing, or he said plan for the worst. He said hope for the best, plan for the worst. So your plan should include reducing expenses. You should go through your monthly budget. If you don't even have a budget yet, I want you to go through your last bank statement. So say you're looking at August bank statements. I want to see, where are you spending money? You should have an idea of what you're spending for food, for gas, for utilities, for anything, discretionary, grooming, anything that you're spending. You need to put a number amount on that, and then try to either eliminate or reduce it in as many areas as possible. Just because food went up, say food went up 25%, that doesn't automatically mean that your grocery budget has to go up 25%. You make adjustments in your budget so that you're not spending over your budget for groceries. You're going to have to look at your budget and say, okay, what can I eliminate and what can I reduce? What can I be smarter about doing? If you're spending a lot in gas, but you're going to every party and every event and everything, and you can't even afford the gas, you're going to have to pull back on where you go. You want to make sure that you have enough reducing expenses so you can increase your savings. Savings needs to be 3 to 6 months. And another comment on one of my last videos, somebody asked, well, why does everybody say 3 to 6 months? Because that's typically how long it takes you to find, similar employment to what you had. If they're laying off a lot of people in your industry, for example, then that's a lot of people that are looking for jobs in a similar industry. It may take you 3 to 6 months to regain employment. That's why you want to make sure you have that amount of savings. And then lastly, get a second income stream. You don't want to be dependent on that one job. It's too close to having no job, right? So you want to have at least one extra income stream. It's easier if you do something that you already are skilled to do, or something that may not require that much skill. So when I was teaching, of course, I had my real estate license, so I could do real estate. And I also was selling a school organizer that I made for my children on Etsy. So I always had something going in addition to my teaching income, because that teaching income was fixed. Although teachers have very stable employment, my pay was fixed. I wasn't going to get a raise, during the school year. If I worked harder, I wasn't going to make more money. So, just want to make sure that you have a second stream of income. If you don't, there's plenty of videos. You're on YouTube. You can find something that you could be doing that doesn't require you to go back to school or something like that. Something you can, start doing very quickly. I would recommend that. And let's talk lastly about where rates typically go during a recession. During a recession, mortgage rates generally go down. So during the Great Recession, for example, between 2007 and 2009, rates started out at about 6.34%. Then in 2008, they went to 6.03%. And then in 2009, they went to 5%. And then little by little, they went down from there. I know in 2020, before COVID, some of my clients were getting mortgage rates in the 3s. So you want to make sure that you're aware that, and I don't know how soon this will happen. I don't know how deep the recession will be, because it's going to vary. we're at a time in our economy where a lot of these things have not happened before. So you can go back and say, okay, this happened the last time, it's kind of similar, but there wasn't a pandemic, there wasn't a war in Ukraine at the time. All of these factors are coming together. They hadn't given this much stimulus out. They didn't forgive student loans. So there are a lot of factors that are coming in together, but you have to at least plan, because it looks, it's a strong probability that we are going to enter a recession. So I hope this was helpful. I will put a link to the full video for Powell's press conference yesterday about raising the interest rate, so you can watch that in full. He starts talking about housing toward the end of that press conference. And if you couldn't hear because I actually recorded it from my television screen because I wasn't sure if they were going to play it again. If you couldn't hear it, please go back to it and just turn up the volume a little bit. Thank you so much for watching. Please like and subscribe to my channel. Put questions in the comments. Like and subscribe for new videos every week.